So I've got Tipster News here with me today. Uh, we're going to be discussing all things related to gaming, retro gaming, game collecting, and nerd culture.
Yeah, sounds like a good time, dude.
So maybe we could start off. Maybe you could give us a quick summary about your channel and how you got started on YouTube.
All right. I started doing YouTube way back in 2006. So, like 13 years now, going on 14 years. I started as a retro gaming channel, doing like reviews on, old school video games and stuff like that. Nowadays, though, I want to say a few years ago, I transitioned to doing trending news topics, or as some people in the community like to call it, drama news. But I still have a love for like video games and stuff like that. So that's why my setup still has all like the old video games and stuff. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm about. And I also have a podcast where we talk about trending topics with my buddies, Phoenix Diva and Biscuit Basher. And I think that pretty much sums it up.
Oh, I didn't even know you had a podcast. I've been I've been following your channel since you had about 15,000 subscribers,
Wow,
and
that's a long time.
you've
Thanks for
grown
holding out, dude.
you've grown a lot since then.
Thank you. Thank you. I try. I'm trying.
Um, So maybe you could tell us. So I do know you used to be into retro gaming stuff, but how about today? Would you consider yourself a big gamer, casual gamer? What kind of games are you into at present?
I'm definitely still a gamer. I don't get to play as much as I used to, because I'm always busy with my day job and then like the YouTube stuff. But I'm still 100% a gamer. Like I said, I still have my setup and everything with all my games and all that. But I'm mostly a retro gamer. Maybe it's just I'm blinded by the nostalgia goggles or whatever. But I just have a real love and affinity for like the old retro stuff. Every once in a while, some modern game comes out that I really like, but for the most part, it's retro games for me. That's where it's at.
I'm in the same boat. Like I just can't get away from retro style 16-bit, 8-bit, sometimes 32, 64-bit type graphics.
Yeah,
So those are, and they had the best games back then. It was just
they really did. I think for me, the sweet spot was right around like I love the older stuff as well, but the sweet spot for me was like PlayStation N64 era. Like some of my favorite games are from that generation.
okay. So that maybe leads me into my next question. What would you say was like the defining game for you? Everyone has like one or two, maybe three games that like for any gamer out there that just defined their life type thing. It had an impact on your life.
Oh, that's a no brainer. It's got to be my favorite game of all time. Resident Evil 2. That is like I am obsessed with that game. I own more copies of that game than I care to admit. I was just always like growing up a big fan of like zombie movies and stuff like that. So when I saw like the first Resident Evil, I thought it was really cool, but by then I was too young to play it. Like I had a friend that was playing it, so I go to his house and watch him play it.
That was the
And
original Resident Evil.
the original one for that. Um, and I used to watch him play because I was too scared to play it myself. But when the second one came out, I finally picked up a copy and I played it myself. And I, it doesn't matter how many times I play that game, I can always go back and play it again and enjoy it just as much as I did the first time. Something about that game, it's just, it's awesome. I don't know any other way to describe it, but it's awesome.
Do you remember in the first Resident Evil that one scene? It's really near the beginning of the game where you're walking down that hallway and the dog jumps out.
Oh God, dude, that one scared me so much
Yeah.
when I first saw that part.
And like because it was in the beginning of the game and nobody had played a game similar to Resident Evil before, it was unexpected. I remember getting my friends to play it and just not telling them what the game was and trying to scare people as a
Yeah, it
kid.
was funny. It was that moment right there where I was like, yeah, I don't know if I want to play this. I'll just watch you play it. And I would come over his house every day until he finished it, so I could just watch him play it. Eventually, obviously, I got around to playing it myself after I played the second one. But yeah, at that time I was too afraid to play it myself. I'll just watch you do it, man. You do you.
So, how did you first get into gaming in the first place? Like, what's the first game you remember playing as a kid? How did you even find out what a video game was? Like what got
Uh,
you into it?
I've been playing video games almost my whole life. I don't remember my exact age because it's a long time ago. I'm kind of an old fart when it comes to YouTubers. Most of them are like around 18 to their early 20s, and I'm 33, so I've lived quite a bit longer than some of the other YouTubers. But having said that, I've been playing pretty much since as far back as I remember. I remember I was introduced to video games by an older cousin of mine. He had an NES, a Nintendo, and I remember watching him play like Rad Racer or something like that. And my parents come into the room and they're like, "Hey, we got to go or whatever." And I'm like, "I want one of these." I didn't even know what it was called, but I wanted one. And I guess my parents like they went to a store the next day to see how much they cost. My parents didn't have a whole lot of money, so they're like, "Yeah, we can't afford to get him that." But my dad had an Atari from when he used to live with his cousin, and so they're like, "It's not the Nintendo, but here you can have this." So like my first experience with gaming, probably when I was like 4 years old or so, was with the Atari. And
Oh
if I
dang.
remember correctly, the first game I played on the Atari, specifically the Atari 2600, I think it was Superman on the Atari.
Superman. How
I
was it?
think that's the earliest one I can remember playing. Playing it now as an adult, it's freaking horrible. But as a kid, I loved it.
I
It's one of those games where you have fond memories of it, but then you go back and play it, and you're like, "What the hell did I see in this game? This game is ridiculous."
a friend of mine grew up playing, I think it's called Star Control. It's an Atari game, and he recently revisited it. Like when he was younger, it was like Star Trek was the best game ever. Revisited the game today, and it's like it's crap. Like it's unplayable. It's not even playable. But back then, that was all there was, so it was mind blowing, right?
That was one of the worst things I experienced when I started collecting. Is like my big thing was I want to get these games back that I played when I was a kid, and I want to re-experience them, right? And so I would remember all these games that I had these like fond memories of, and like, yeah, I want to get that back, and I want to play that again. So you get the game, I find it at like a swap meet or something like that, or buy it on eBay, pop it in the system, and I'm excited to relive that experience again. And I'm just like, this game's dog shit. What did I see in this game when I was a kid? I guess I was easily amused as a kid, but as an adult, this game is bad.
I think that's part of it. I think kids are more easily amused in general, so you can give a kid a bad game and they'll have a good time with it, right?
Yeah, especially if you're like your parents are renting you a game, so you only have a week with it, so you have to pick that one game that's gonna be your entertainment for the rest of the week. And even if it sucks, you have to like force yourself to enjoy it because it's like, well, this is what I'm playing all week, so
And if you
I
don't
gotta make
play it,
myself like it.
and if you don't play it, you wasted your money because you only have it for a week, and
Yeah,
then you'll never play it again in your life. Like it's you rented it, you play it no matter how bad it is.
young people will never experience the joys of renting video games.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, I experience a lot of my games though that way, so it's fun.
So do you have any memories? This is a tough one. You might have to dig deep, but do you have any funny rage stories? Any games that made you rage a lot? Usually, it's an online game of some sort.
So I have a story. I don't know if it's necessarily what you're looking for, but I'm going to tell it anyway. And if my sister sees this show, she's going to be pissed off
This will be
because
good.
it involves her. So I mentioned that my first game console was an Atari, and I played that thing for years. Even after I eventually got a Nintendo or even like newer systems than that, I still continue to play it because I loved it. It was my first game system. And we used to live in a house when I was real young, where we only had a two-bedroom house, so me and my sister shared a room, and like the bathroom was like right next to our room. So my sister, she went to take a shower, and I'm playing the Atari. And back then, people don't they didn't put their game console into an entertainment center like they do now. It was just like on the floor. So I'm sitting on the floor and I'm playing this thing, and she comes out of the shower and she's got like a towel wrapped around her, and she's like, "I want to play next." And I said, "No, I'm playing." I think I was playing like Spider Man or something like that on the Atari. And I'm like, "No, I'm playing." So I kid you not, I've told this story before on my stream. She stands over the Atari, squats, and pisses on it. And I'm just like, what the hell is happening right now? And I'm just like, did you really do that right now? And even my mom saw it, and she's like, why would you do that? He wouldn't let me play. So there went my Atari. It destroyed it. And,
That's hilarious.
I literally couldn't believe that when it happened. I'm just like, what the hell? She gets so mad when I bring up that story because it's embarrassing the hell out of her.
But she must have been like she was super pissed. Like
Yeah, she was mad. Well, she was so pissed that she pissed me.
that's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, me and her, we've been playing games together our whole life, and I love my sister to death because like we were one of these siblings that we had a good sibling relationship. It wasn't like most brother and sister where they're always like bickering with each other.
Right,
We were always
yeah.
playing video games together and stuff. So to this day, we still meet up occasionally to play video games and shit.
So are you still collecting retro games to this day? Are you still buying games? Are you on the market? Are you always looking for hidden gems, or do you follow the collecting market?
I don't follow as much as I used to. I pretty much got my collection to a point where I'm happy with what I have. I've got pretty much all the things that I want in my collection. I don't have anything super rare or anything like that, but my goals with collecting has always been let me get back the games that I personally experienced growing up. And I think I have that. And I have a few games that, I missed when I was younger that didn't get a chance to play. So I'm pretty content with what I have now. I do think maybe someday in the future when I have a little bit more time and maybe a little bit more money to spend, maybe I'll get back into going to the flea markets and stuff like that and trying to find games again. But for now, I'm pretty happy with what I got. And I can't remember the last time I added something other than new games to the collection. So yeah, I'm not actively collecting. Just I have what I have right now.
Right.
Yeah.
This is I'm going to pick your brain on this, but this is a topic that's debated amongst collectors on a daily basis, basically. And the question is, are these games, like I got NES games behind me, NES, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, those being the earlier generations, the first three,
Right.
let's use them as the example. Are they going to hold value in 25, 50 years from today? Because those younger generations coming up, they didn't grow up with these games like me and you did. So I hold value on these games. Some of them are very expensive. You get $2,000 NES games, right?
Yeah.
But is little Timmy, who's 3 years old today, is he going to want to pay $2,000 for that game when he's 25 or 35?
Um,
What's your personal opinion on that?
I, I do personally feel like they will continue to hold their value because something that you don't see with other collectibles like certain things like comic books, for example. A lot of the people who are collecting the older stuff, they tend to be older people, and the younger people, they don't have a whole lot of interest in it. Like if you have a younger comic book fan, I could be way off on this one, but because I don't do comics, but based on what I've observed, going to like collectors conventions and stuff in the past, is the younger people tend to gravitate towards the newer stuff, like the current day Marvel stuff or Walking Dead stuff like that. They don't tend to go to the older comic books, right? But with video games, it's surprising to see how many young people actually do take an interest in the retro stuff. Not everybody, obviously, but there's a pretty decent number of people who actually do take an interest in that stuff. Like one person that comes to mind is a buddy of mine who also has a show on YouTube. He goes by Augie RFC. Um, he's only 18 years old, but he loves retro games and like playing like old school like Nintendo and Super Nintendo and stuff
Oh,
like that.
wow.
So there are a lot of young people who they want to know about the history of video games, like how did we get to where we are now? They want to see the stepping stones of how that happened, and they're just genuinely interested in those games. And not only that, but some of these games are timeless. Like it doesn't matter when you play them; they're still just as fun to play now as they were back then. So I do think that people will continue to be interested in them. I do think that people will continue to be interested in the history of the games, and as a result of that, I do think these games will maintain their value as well, especially when we start getting into like these games starting to fail and become more rare because of that over time. because things like bit rot
Right.
is a thing and stuff like that. So I think they will maintain their value. If anything, they might even go higher because of bit rot and stuff like that.
That's kind of my opinion as well. I think gamers see these as art
Yeah,
equivalent to a painting. Rich people collect paintings worth millions and millions of dollars. Why can't there be gamers that collect games, right?
right.
Um, they might not ever reach $1 million per se, but they also might. Like some of those, like that gold NWC NES card, I could
Right.
see that going for $1 million, right?
Yeah. Maybe someday. Yeah, I
Someday.
haven't followed the trends with that card recently, but I remember when I first heard about the NWC card, the gold cartridge at the time was going for like $10,000, which is a lot of money. But I want to say like a few years later, I ended up looking at the prices for that again, and by that point, it was at $25,000. So, and from what I've heard, it just keeps going up and up for that particular one because it's like one of the most like sought after things that everybody wants. So yeah, I do think that maybe at some point some of these more rare games will get to that point, or even something like the Nintendo PlayStation. There's only one of those that we know of so far. Something like that will probably fetch a lot of money in the future. So
Maybe that'll be $10 million one day. I mean, who knows, right?
maybe
Like
you never know.
there's original comic books worth I forget which one, Action Comics something is worth like 3.4 million. So last it sold for.
Yeah, something
Uh,
like that.
I forget which one it is. It's one of the originals from I don't even remember 1938. I want to say maybe it was like 1950, 1960. I don't remember,
Yeah, I
but
vaguely remember which one you're talking about, but I don't remember which one it is either. Yeah.
were you ever into Pokemon cards or Yu-Gi-Oh?
I was really into the Pokemon cards when they had just come out. I had tons of those things. We're talking like binders and binders of like Pokemon cards. I wasn't so much into playing the game. I played it occasionally, but more the collecting side of it. I was so invested in that. And with Yu-Gi-Oh, I kind of collected it for a while, but I never got into it as much as I did with Pokemon.
Have you
I still have some of my Pokemon cards actually. Now that I think about it.
Have you seen that some of those Pokemon cards, like I don't know much about it. I just seen like some of those first edition, I guess super rare Charizards going for like $50,000 or more.
Really?
Yeah, like it's crazy. Same with Yu-Gi-Oh! Like these first edition rare Blue Eyes, White Dragons, and all the first edition stuff, right? Like they're worth a lot of money now. I wish I had some Yu-Gi-Oh cards back in the day. I probably had some of those first editions, maybe not the ones from the starter decks, but
Right.
the ones from the actual packs. It's worth a lot of money.
That's crazy because I
If
remember when I was collecting Pokemon more actively when I was a teenager. Like I'll use Charizard as an example. That's everybody's go-to. It was like a really rare card at the time. That was like really high in price. We're not talking like that kind of money, but pretty good money for the time for a card. Like I think it was going for like $200 at the time.
holy yeah,
And then when I started collecting video games and I wanted to get back into collecting those cards too at the same time, I was looking at the prices and they kind of dipped. Like Charizard got all the way down to $25 at one point. And that was the last time I checked it. So to hear that it's going back up and going up that high, that's insane.
yeah, and everybody's getting the PSA graded cards now.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I'm actually starting to think that there'll be a bubble in the cards because everyone's getting like everything graded, like an $18 Yu-Gi-Oh card. Oh, my camera busted.
Yeah, your camera kind of froze up there.
I'm a green screen now. Do you see me?
I do not. I see the green screen.
Oh well. We'll finish up with the green screen.
Oh, there we go. Hey, you came back. Cool, cool. I was like,
um,
what just happened? Hey,
yeah. Anyways,
uh,
I see like $18 Yu-Gi-Oh cards, but if you get them PSA graded and they're graded 10, it's all of a sudden $100 or $200 card, and it's like every
yeah,
single card is supposedly worth $100 or $200 if you get it graded. I just don't see people collecting all of those. I think it'll stick with the Charizards, the maybe the Pikachu's, the Blue Eyes White Dragons, just the top tier nostalgic figures.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
just my
I like
opinion.
that grading stuff because they do that in video games now too. and they try to say it's worth more just because it's graded.
Yeah.
And I don't think that should be the case. The point of grading originally was just to say it was evaluated by a professional, and this is the quality that they determined that it is. It wasn't meant to say, hey, it's worth more now because it got graded. It's just, hey, I thought it was good quality, so I sent it to a professional, and they agreed with me, and that was all it was ever meant to be.
and and now it's supposedly worth 10 to 20 times more just because it was graded.
Just because it was graded and it's trapped in a stupid plastic shell now. Nah, I'll pass.
Just on a side note, there is a guy on eBay selling an Elmo. He got Elmo numbers or Elmo N64 game for toddlers. He got it graded, and it's like I don't know, a 9 out of 10 or something. But that game is like a meme. It's a funny joke.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Garfield Kart Furious Racing. It's just a joke, and I think he got it graded as a joke, and I'm just laughing because he's trying to sell it on eBay for $500 now.
The sad thing is, with retro collecting so popular, and there's a bunch of people coming into it that just don't know what this stuff is worth. They'll probably get some idiot to buy it and think like, yeah, I got this like rare game or whatever. And it's like, no, you got a piece of shit game in a plastic box, dude. Sorry, man, it's not worth that.
Elmo's number journey is not worth much. It's a game for 3-year-olds.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. Did you play Garfield Kart Furious Racing?
I know of its meme status, but I have not had the privilege of enjoying the game myself.
It's a great game. You should check it out. It's a good game.
Yeah, I was watching your last interview and you asked that same question.
I'm asking everybody that question.
I gotta check this game now because there must be something to this game if he keeps asking about it.
I guess that's it for today. Any last words about your channel? What are the future goals for your channel?
Right now, I just kind of, been playing with the format the past few months, to try and find out how I want to do things and find the right formula because I do a news show, so I got to be able to pump out videos quickly and stuff. So I think I finally found that perfect formula that I like, in addition to doing the podcast every Sunday. So I'm just going to stick with that. The channel's growing right now, so I guess we'll see, what happens this year in terms of growth. But it's just grinding, man. Just doing my thing. So,
well, keep going. You're one of my favorite channels on YouTube. Keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a great job, and I wish you the best in the future for more growth.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thanks for coming on the interview.
No problem.
All right, have a good one.
You too.